Hello, Shavua Tov. I'm posting this after Shabbos because I did not get it recorded before Shabbos. And I hope you enjoy my hole in my wall. I had my heat worked on and it's still not working all that great. Anyways, first world problems. This was my sermon for Vayeira, which was this past week, the year 5777, which is the secular year 2016. So the Lord appeared to Abraham in the terebinths of Mamre, as he was sitting in the door of his tent in the heat of the day. We know the story's broad strokes. 3 angels, disguised as men, appear, and Abraham rushes to make them feel at home, despite being still weak and weary from his circumcision. He sets out a feast for them. He has Sarah make some cakes, and he washes their feet. In the very next chapter, close enough to be suspicious to us as biblical readers, there's a strangely similar story, with a very different ending. Lot, Abraham's nephew and a resident of the city of Sodom, was sitting in the gate to the city one evening, when he saw 2 men coming through the gate. Like Abraham, Lot invites the men to his house to stay, but unlike Abraham, Lot has to do some convincing to get them there. Like Abraham, Lot makes a feast, and everyone begins to settle down for the night. Here's where things unravel. Before falling asleep, Lot is faced with an angry mob outside his door. Every man in the city of Sodom is demanding information about his guests. "Where are the men who came to you tonight?" they said to Lot. They order him to bring the men out to the mob so that they can, let's just say, be abused. Lot does everything in his ability to convince the mob to just leave the men alone. He places himself in harm's way, outside of his house, with his back to the closed door. But instead of accepting his reasoned response, they turn on him instead. "Move aside," the angry mob shouts. "This man came as a stranger, and now he judges us. We will do even worse to them now." Then the mob tried to force Lot to let them in the house, and tried to break down the door. Luckily, the men were actually angels, and they rescue Lot and his family, and they destroy Sodom. But I'm left wondering, why does the biblical author give us 2 stories about welcoming guests in such quick succession? Most rabbinical commentators seem to focus on the differences in the way Abraham welcomes the angels and Lot welcomes the angels. I, however, am more interested in the mob in Sodom. What is it that differentiates Abraham and Lot on the one hand from the Anshe Ha'ir, the Anshe Stone, the men of the city, the men of Sodom? I am not satisfied with the traditional answer that the city of Sodom was full of great sin and had to be destroyed. It feels too easy and too black and white to me. After all, we're told just 5 chapters back in Genesis 13:10 that Sodom was fertile and beautiful like God's garden. So what happened? The rabbis give us some clues to the nature of the sin of the people of Sodom. In Mishnah Avot, they tell us that there are 4 kinds of people in the world. The wicked are possessive. They are the ones who say, "What is yours is mine, and what is mine is also mine." The pious are selfless, and they say, "What is mine is yours, and what is yours is also yours." The uneducated switch everything around completely. They say, "What is yours is mine, and what is mine is yours," which makes absolutely no sense. But the rabbis make clear that that last personality type, the midah benonit, the average temperament, is the one who says, "What is yours, and what is mine is mine." And some among the rabbis say that this is the temperament of the Anshe Sodom, the citizens of Sodom who became that mob. To our modern American ears, this may seem silly. Surely God destroyed Sodom for more than just minding their own business. We live in a society here in America which glorifies individuality. We have single-family homes, low taxes, and no mandatory tithing. We talk more about our rights than about our responsibilities. But Judaism has always been countercultural, and the rabbis of the Mishnah want us to know very clearly that these are not Jewish values. Judaism teaches us that we are responsible for one another, that we have an imperative from God to take care of one another, and that to shirk that responsibility is punishable by divine retribution. When examined, we realize that this idea that what is yours and what is mine is very subtly corrosive to community. It allows all manner of terrible things to be done in its name. It allows us to pass someone who is suffering and look the other way. After all, it is their suffering, not our suffering. It allows us to be stingy with our time and our money. It's their responsibility to pay for it or do it. It's not my responsibility. It also allows us to sit idly by as our neighbor's blood is shed. It's their fight, not my fight. Is this really our vision of a just society? The Yalkut Shimoni, a compilation of Midrash, tells us this story. It was announced once in Sodom, whoever will give bread to a poor person will be burnt at the stake, for your food belongs to you and not to him. Plotit, the daughter of Lot, who was married to a prominent Sodomite, once saw a poor man who was so hungry he was almost unable to stand. She felt sorry for him, and from then on she made sure to pass him every day on her way to the well. She would feed him some food she had hidden in her water jug. People wondered how the man managed to live. Upon investigation, they discovered what Plotit was doing, and they decided to burn her at the stake. Before she died, she turned to God and cried, "Ribono shel olam, Master of the world, carry out justice on my behalf." Her cries pierced the heavens, and that was the moment God said, "I will now go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me." We know instinctively that the spirit of generosity is very different from the act of stealing. To equate the two seems like nonsense. But the people of Sodom could not tell the difference. They believed that being generous with what they had was essentially stealing from themselves. They were just stingy. This mentality is made all the more ridiculous because we're told over and over by the rabbis that Sodom was one of the great cities, lush in natural resources, bordering on the Jordan River. It had once regularly welcomed in strangers like Lot and his family had been welcomed. But then Lot stood up for the safety of his guests, and he was once again a stranger to them. Another midrash tells the tale about the kind of hospitality with which guests were traditionally greeted in Sodom. To make sure that they did not waste anything, innkeepers in Sodom would put every guest to sleep on a bed that was one size. If the guest was taller than the bed, they would cut off the guest's legs or their head to make them fit. If the guest was too short, they would stretch the guest so that there was no waste of space on the bed. The Sodomites wanted to make sure that everyone in their city was the same and followed the same rules, and in doing so, they turned beds of rest and hospitality into either a guillotine or a rack. What do all these stories have in common? The rabbis want us to know that this waste not, want not mentality is not a Jewish value. The rabbis want us to know that stinginess towards strangers is not a Jewish value. The rabbis want us to know that individualism that allows us to hide in our homes and not worry about the stranger is not a Jewish value. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've been dismayed at some of the conversations I've overheard in the last week. More and more often, I hear people speaking like the Anshe stone, instead of like Abraham and Lot. I've heard suspicion of strangers in our own country, whether immigrants or refugees, despite America having some of the toughest and most restrictive refugee screening in the world. I have heard citizens of our country branded as strangers like Lot was, after they stood up for the safety of other strangers. I have heard people shirking their part of communal responsibility, using the excuse that what is mine, and what is yours. Our country is beautiful and lush, rich in resources and wealth. We have so much to share, and so many who need what we have, that stinginess cannot be an option. The rabbis know how easy it is to slip into this stinginess. After all, we're just protecting what is ours, to share it with our children and to sustain us throughout our lives. But we still have so much, and so many around us have so little. Now, I don't know about you, but I am looking forward to Thanksgiving next week. Many of us will use this holiday as an occasion to donate our kosher turkey to the JFS food pantry. Some of us will work in a homeless shelter, serving Thanksgiving dinner to those who cannot provide one for themselves. Most of us, I hope, will have a moment of gratitude for all of the things that God has provided for us in the past year. But let me also temper our Thanksgiving with a reality check. I'm a bit of a statistics nerd, and after some digging, I found out that the most generous people in America, with the exception only of those who make more than $10 million a year, the most generous people in America are the poor. You heard me right. According to the IRS, those who make less than $50,000 a year give upwards of 4% of their income to charity, while those who make between $50,000 and $10 million a year give less than 3%. I know that we can do better in this country. Instead of falling prey to the corrosive philosophy of the Anshe stone, what is yours and what is mine, I know that we can instead be tzaddikim, righteous people like Abraham and Lot, who say, what is yours, but what is mine is also yours. Now, we need not put ourselves in poverty to show our generosity. We do, however, need to have a frank discussion about whether we are doing enough to actively show hospitality to the strangers among us. We do need to undergo an honest evaluation of our ability to give more generously. We especially need to reject the mob mentality of the Anshe stone. In a righteous and a rich society, there is no excuse and no room for a point of view that says that strangers and those who aid them are to be viewed with suspicion or abused or rejected. Instead, we must choose to be like Abraham and Lot, pious people who looked in the eyes of a stranger and saw an honored guest. Shabbat Shalom.